Little Falls. That runs right along the Passaic River here, the Pompton River, as it comes down. But I want to show you what happens in this particular neighborhood. You can see how the river kind of makes a bend, and that's where you have the flooding, is right in this area. Right in here, that's where you begin to see the water get up into the streets. Now, one other thing I can do with this shot is kind of compare where we were today versus where we were last week. Over on the right, that's the Willowbrook Mall on the other side of the river. You can see the back of that store. It's actually a floor and decor store. Last week when we were flying overhead, the water there was right up to the doors of the loading docks. This morning you can see it's kind of down at the bottom of the loading docks. You're probably looking at a difference of maybe 2 or 3 feet, but that 2 or 3 feet makes such a difference when it comes to how this affects the areas around here. Last week we were talking about entire neighborhoods that were submerged. Today we're looking at streets, but again, everyone's being very vigilant because these rivers will not crest until later this afternoon.
and they weren't setting up a podium or anything. So Angelo went down there to set up a light stand and set up some sort of, you know, reasonable type of, instead of everybody couching around talking to the governor and the mayor.
I got a 5-9 off that fence.
Which fence?
The white fence.
5-6. I'll live with that. 5-9 off the
You got
fence.
spotting on your lens?
Do I?
Yeah, hold on.
Jay got much real estate for you in this apartment.
Yeah. Let me get a white, I guess. Okay.
And you'll get a real good view of where it's coming in up there. This is just going to continue to come up here and become impossible. So, yeah.
Will you have a mic? Do you want to walk
Yes. It is, guys, it is. What's up? And if that's the case, that is a different digital line.
Governor, what are your thoughts seeing on?
Okay, 77, he's going to the podium now, and I believe that's on another
Yeah, I guess it is.
Oh, come on. You have to pay for that. Come on. Maybe you're
Okay, Murphy's about to start. Murphy's about to start.
You asked earlier a resident, I think you said he was 19 times?
19 declared emergencies and 6 undeclared. She's been through 25 floods right here, never left once.
So it's just, again, I said this in Lodi last night. I've been back and forth with mayors this morning, just checking in on them. Franklin Township, Hillsborough, other communities. We're seeing the same movie again and again and again. So in the short term, let me say unequivocally, we're here for you, for the county, for your fellow mayors, period, full stop. I've got Dan Kelly with me, who's been in the governor's office since Superstorm Sandy. Rob Field is with me. Lieutenant Colonel Krista Mays is representing Colonel Callahan. Let me say unequivocally, we are here for you, 24/7, and period. In the long term, again, we can't keep living the same reality, whether it's elevations. James made a good point. Blue Acres program is very successful. The problem is you undercut your ratables, which is the downside of that program. But in certain places, that may be the answer. Elevations, as I mentioned, and sort of in the bigger picture sense, just getting out ahead of Mother Nature. We're getting dragged by Mother Nature, not just here in New Jersey, around the country, arguably around the world. And so, whether it's mitigation, resiliency programs. We've done a lot in the past 6 years. I'm proud of that, but boy, it's pretty clear we need to do a whole lot more. One long-term silver lining is the Inflation Reduction Act has an enormous amount, billions of dollars of resiliency programs, and New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the country, should be at or near the front of the class in terms of getting those dollars. One last comment, James, and would love you or the sheriff or anyone else to chime in here, is it's not just the event that happened 2 nights ago. And by the way, even though the weather's beautiful, this river has not crested yet. You think that's 7 o'clock tonight?
Around 7 or 8 p.m. this evening.
7 or 8 o'clock tonight. So the water that's coming in from our left is only going up and not down. And that's something which people sort of have to register, particularly obviously those who are living in areas like this. The other challenge is we've had one after another. This is the third event in the past 3 weeks. We've got another one coming through Friday night. Doesn't look like it's as much rain. We're projecting 1.5 inches beginning early evening into Saturday morning. Winds again, but I don't think at the level that we saw 2 nights ago, but it's the cumulative impact here, the saturation in the ground, the fatigue, the one after another. And so we're in one of those cycles at the moment, whether we like it or not, and we're just gonna have to grit and get through it together, and I promise you we'll be here for you. Do you want to say anything, James?
Yeah, thanks, Governor, for coming here. As you indicated, we are a resilient community here in Little Falls. The issue becomes resiliency 3 weeks apart from another major flood. Becomes really disheartening to residents, and I want everybody here to keep the faith. We are resilient. We will come together. We will band together. We will do everything we can to get everybody back up and on their feet. As you indicated, for us here in Little Falls, the real answer is elevations for these homes. Everybody that I talked to whose home is elevated after this last storm 3 weeks ago had heat, had hot water when they returned to their homes. Others that are not are dealing with $20,000 to $30,000 worth of heat and furnace issues. We've had a number of homeowners here in the community tell me when they were elevated, all they had to do when they returned, or if they stayed, was hose out their garage and bleach the area a little bit to make sure it was safe, and they didn't lose anything. The real issue is really these homes that are at ground level, that have living space in the flood area, and getting them above our flood area is critical to keep them safe during these storms.
You also made another very fair point. This is a great community, about 15,000 residents. I don't know if you were approximating, or in fact it's 98%, but most of this town doesn't flood.
That's correct. A majority of this town is not flood prone. Unfortunately, you know, with the amount of information about Little Falls lately, everybody's seeing this coverage related to the flooding. Everyone assumes Little Falls floods everywhere. In fact, a lot of this town is on a mountain or is higher and is not dealing with those types of issues. But you know, I do like to say that we are a great community. The entire town does not flood. We do have some sections where I said elevations would be beneficial, but you know, it is not the whole town that floods.
You bet, and that's an important point to make, and it's a great community. Sheriff, you, Orlando, anyone at the county level want to say anything?
Thank you, Governor. I just want to say
Step up to the mic, please.
Governor, I just want to say thank you again for the state troopers that are here through the Office of Emergency Management. Again, you've been here to support us. Mayor, you and the entire council has done a phenomenal job. All the first responders here have been on top of this situation from day one. We in the Sheriff's Department and also as County OEM Coordinator will be here to continue that support, and we're hoping that we get through this. Again, just keep everybody here in your prayers. They've gone through a lot. Thank you.
Amen. Orlando, you want to come in? Commissioner Orlando Cruz.
Thank you, Governor. And I'll just echo the sentiments of our sheriff here and to the mayor of this town and other towns in our, in all 16 of our municipalities in Passaic County that suffer the same issue with these flooding. You know, we're here to support you. You have the resources available, whatever we can do for us to be there for you guys and for the community. Hopefully we can get the experts together in the long term, Governor, to really see how we can mitigate this issue and find resolve for these communities moving forward. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations with the experts. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Let me say one last thing, not just in Little Falls, but I have to say, to the best of my knowledge around the state, my colleagues can correct us if they have heard otherwise, we have no injuries and no fatalities from these storms. So please God, it stays that way from the other night. Please.
Governor, you said we've seen this movie before. Some of us have stood in communities like this since Floyd, right? So the solution you're saying is elevation, but some of the newer people, the people who have moved in, can't seem to be able to get that money. How about buyouts? Can that be more appealing to some of the people who live here so they can just sell and move?
So these are not the only weapons at our disposal in the medium and long term. We need big resiliency investments, whether that's dredging rivers or redirecting currents, you know, bigger picture things. But both of those weapons are available. So the Blue Acres program to buy folks out or to elevate your home. The problem that James points out is with the buyout option, you lose ratables in town. And so it becomes sort of a downward spiral, which you don't want to get into, particularly in a community where overwhelmingly doesn't flood. And by the way, almost every community that I'm aware of that does flood has a similar profile to Little Falls. In other words, it's part of the community, but overwhelmingly for the most part, most of these communities don't flood.
Governor, for a couple of decades, I've heard the talk of open the dam, close the dam, do this, do the different towns complaining of what that situation is. Is there an explanation, one explanation that explains what opening, closing does to prevent flooding that causes flooding in other towns? Is there one?
Listen, I'm not a scientist or an expert, but we pressed this very hard with our commissioner and his team at the Department of Environmental Protection leading into this most recent storm, and there was a fair amount of discussion, I think 3 weeks ago, around the first storm. They will tell you the science is on the side of the actions that they've taken. That if they were to take contrary actions, you'd have actually unintended consequences and worse results, maybe in different towns. So that's the other issue. You've got one town versus another, and we're in touch with all those mayors, and they make very compelling cases. And by the way, including the psychological case, that the very fact you may open it would send a message to your residents that you're going to be okay. But the science has suggested, at least as I'm told, otherwise, and we're going to continue to be Moneyball as we usually are and call this based on the facts.
Governor, the mayor said just before Christmas that it was very critical to get more federal funding for the home elevations. I was just curious, do we know how much more specifically? You can provide specifics in terms
I mean, Dan, where's Dan Kelly? I think we've unlocked sort of plus or minus $10 million, and we're going to probably have to unlock more. There are FEMA hurdles which are much higher, which are harder to get to. We've gotten there in the past with Ida as one example. Certainly with Sandy, Dan was in the front office during that storm. So the answer is we're going to turn over every stone we can, whether it's state money, county, perhaps, guys, and the biggest bucket of money in all this is going to be the feds.
Is that only for the insurance?
I'm sorry?
Is that only for people with flood insurance?
It depends on what the bucket of money is. So, for instance, a small business loan would be a different criteria than other programs, for instance.
Governor, your biggest concern heading into tonight and the weekend?
Well, tonight my biggest concern is the Passaic River cresting at 7 or 8 o'clock. That's pretty clear. There's really no weather, to the best of my knowledge, tonight. That's going to be the one challenge. And as James said, maybe before we turn the cameras on, I'm standing in a fraction of an inch of water, but you think it'll go up to 2 or 3 feet.
This area could very well be under 18 to 24 inches of water. This area where we're standing was under that much water 3 weeks ago. And we are, again, we're prepared for the worst, but hoping for the best right now. And right now it's based upon current predictions of the gauges, which may be off by a little bit. We are hoping they are overestimating, and the river will under-deliver the amount of water that.
Please God. The weather issue, though, is Friday night, tomorrow night into Saturday. And again, it won't be, our models suggest it won't be nearly as bad as 2 nights ago, but it's, as I mentioned, the cumulative effect, the saturation in the ground, the fatigue, frankly, that all of which we're concerned about.
What about Tuesday? I know there's the possibility of snow. What do we know about that, and what are the fears there?
I don't have a whole lot for you, but that one looks more snow, wintry mix, rain, depending on where you are in the state, and we're watching it. But no news to make yet on that.
We know you were in Lodi yesterday. Today you're in Little Falls. All of these river towns are kind of having this is a delayed response, so to speak, when it comes to flooding. People really aren't cognizant of the fact that this isn't a thing that hits right away, especially for the river towns. So what are you telling people in order to try and prepare for things like this?
So Lodi, by the way, last night was there. By the way, I've been with James, I've been with Scott Luna in Lodi. Unfortunately, I love the town, but I'm there too many times for all the wrong reasons. The Saddle River had crested by the time I got there last night, so that was behind them. The Passaic has not. And I think the very basic point is the sun's out. People could get lulled into thinking that all the bad news is behind us, and we just can't let people make, silly mistakes with water. For whatever reason, water, folks, human nature is that, I know it says don't drive down that street, but I'm going to be fine. In Ida, we lost a lot of people that way. Thank God so far, folks have been terrific. They've heeded the warnings, and right now, as a result, we have no injuries or fatalities, and I hope it stays that way. Thank you all so much.
Governor, concerned about power outages Friday or Tuesday?
Potentially, yes. Potentially on Friday. I don't know enough about Tuesday yet, but we're going to have some high winds Friday night.
Governor, you were here yesterday and obviously today, but in regard to last month's storm, some said you could visit their area. You know, is there a reason why now and not last month?
Listen, you can run as we do the government remotely. You can 24/7, no matter where you are. It means a lot, though, for people to see the boss, and that's why I'm here today, and I'm honored to be here. I'm looking forward to coming back to Little Falls for a really happy reason other than flooding.
We're hoping to have you. Sorry, I stepped. That was a